In our blog last week, where we talked about OpenAI Assistants, we had a video that demonstrated how you can, in the future, use Semantic Kernel with OpenAI Assistants to quickly and easily build teams of assistants that can help users. If you remember, we had a project manager assistant and a researcher assistant, and they were able to work together through the power of plugins. Since then, I've also gone ahead and added a mathematician assistant. Now, as part of this demo, what I want to highlight, what I want to show, is how you can use instructions to make your assistants even more powerful. And I'm going to be showing how you can use templatization of these instructions with Semantic Kernel to make them even more capable. So without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our researcher agent, the one that we created last time. Now, most of it's the same, but you'll notice I've tacked on some additional text. We'll get to it in a bit. This first bit is what we like to call the persona of the assistant. It's describing to the assistant who it is and what it does. You're a researcher that searches the web for information. What this doesn't do, though, is actually provide concrete instructions on what the, in this case, researcher can and cannot do. So I've done just that. In the last example, I asked for some food recommendations and I was kind enough to let it know where I was located. But if I didn't, this researcher would gladly look for restaurants in any city, whether it was relevant to me or not. And so what I've done is I've added some instructions that say, if you are asked to recommend restaurants, require the location and the cuisine. And if this isn't here, what this assistant will automatically do is ask for that information from the product manager. So I'm going to go ahead and run this application, and we can start to see what this interaction is like with the product manager and the researcher. So I can type in here, what are some good places to eat? Now this will have the project manager relay it to the researcher. And the researcher, because we provided this instructions, it's telling us that it still needs our location and cuisine. And the project manager is relaying that back to us as a user in a pretty friendly kind of way. So I'm going to respond back. Can you recommend several different cuisines in Seattle? And you'll notice I still haven't specified the cuisine, but this is where having a project manager in the middle can be really, really beneficial because it can be the one that comes up with different cuisines. In this case, American, Italian, Mexican, and one of the benefits of having hierarchical chat is the project manager can parallelize all of these different requests. What this means is I don't have just one researcher. I now have 3 working for me at the exact same time. And once they're all done, they give that information back to the project manager so it can synthesize this information together. What this means is all of this work can happen much faster for the user. So just to recap what we've learned so far, we've learned how we can add actual real instructions to the researcher. We've learned that if one of these subassistants doesn't have enough information, it's smart enough to ask its parent, in this case the PM, and the PM can ask the user. And we got to see how hierarchical chat can actually parallelize requests to these different assistants. Now, the next thing I want to show off is how to templatize these instructions to make them even more powerful. And this is something that we think is going to be unique with Semantic Kernel because of its templating support through things like handlebars and f-strings. So you'll see here I added this mathematician plugin, and it's set up right here. It uses the math plugin. And if we actually look at its YAML file, it's a little bit more advanced than the research one, right? We still have our persona. We're describing it as a mathematician. But you'll notice as part of the persona, we're like, don't show your work, just give the answer. And the reason we're able to do that is because as part of this template, we're also inlining the answer to the ask. We are giving this assistant a cheat sheet. And we're able to do that because in this case, we're using handlebars, which allows us to call functions as part of our plugin so that we can call this perform math function with the ask. Now, if we actually look what this perform math function is and how it works, If we scroll to the top, it is basically using a planner. It's using the brand new Handlebars planner that's being developed right now, which we're super excited to share with you. And it uses all the functions in the math plugin. At last count, I think there was 18 different functions, way more than the previous planners could support. And then we're using this planner to actually solve the answer. And once it does get the answer, it's able to drop it into this template so that this mathematician assistant can just parrot it back to the user. So let's go ahead and try out a prompt. I'm going to copy and paste this one I always come back to. How much money would I have if I waited long enough in the stock market? If we sent it off, we can see the project manager relaying that question. We can see that template being generated using Handlebars. It has the right answer, and then that gets relayed back to the user. This was really, really quick, and I know this was the right answer because it's using those math functions as part of the math plugin. Okay, so that I hope is pretty exciting. We can use inside of these instructions kind of templates to well structure the information that we give to these assistants. You can also imagine that we use this for RAG, right? We can start bringing in context dynamically through APIs and bring it into these assistants. So you can marry that with the file support that OpenAI already provides for assistants. The last thing I want to show you is we've been looking at models that are non-OpenAI. For example, I have on my computer right now this thing called Ollama, which if you're not familiar is a tool and application that you can install on whatever machine you have. It even works on a Mac, and you can use a bunch of the most popular models like Llama locally on your machine to satisfy your users' requirements. And the reason why you might want to do this is you might have a specialized model, or you need to have it run locally on the user's machine, or you want to try to save money and not use something as big and as expensive as an OpenAI model. But the problem is it isn't super clear how you would actually marry those things with assistants. Well, with templates you can, because just like how we were able to call our planner, we could even call a local Ollama model in this template. So to do that, if we go back to our program file, we can see I've created this connector for Ollama. There's a special model called Wizard Math. I'm using the baby 7 billion one instead of like the 70 billion parameter one. So not as smart as it can be, but it's still capable enough. And I'm using this model with the mathematician plugin. And I want to go ahead and swap out our math plugin with our Ollama generation plugin that it itself has a perform math function. And basically we're just asking Ollama to answer it. So I made that quick switch. I'm going to go ahead and save and refresh. And what this will let us do is instead of using our planner, which uses OpenAI, we can start using this local model. And you can start thinking of all the scenarios where you want to use different models that OpenAI doesn't provide, like classification or different types of modalities, or if you're big enough, maybe you have a specialized model. This is the way for you to be able to bring these and merge them in with assistants. So let's go ahead and get a question that we can share with it. Expand the following expression. And I've left a breakpoint here so that we can see what's actually being returned by Ollama. So the project manager tells the mathematician, expand this expression. And we can look at what was being generated. And we can see Ollama doing all the work to actually get to the final answer. This then, of course, gets put inside of the templated instructions so that the math assistant really doesn't have to do all that much. It just has to parrot the answer back to the project manager so it can tell the user. So that concludes this demo. I just want to recap everything that we've learned. So we've seen how you can easily change instructions to provide actual instructions. We've seen how you can use handlebars or other templating languages in order to call functions like planners. And we've also seen how you can start marrying the worlds of OpenAI assistants and other models, like, in this case, Wizard Math. But any model that you want, whether local or elsewhere, you can bring into Semantic Kernel and use with Assistants. Thank you for listening to this whole demo. I hope this got you excited. In the next few days, our first version of Assistants is going to be landing inside of the main repo of Semantic Kernel. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you.